Batman the Brave and the Bold has me really interested. I like the idea of a Batman film focusing on the relationship between Batman and Robin. We haven't seen Robin in a Batman film since 1997. Batman working with a partner is something that the more recent films just never focused on, so after all this time, Batman having a Robin again is now a fresh angle. I know a lot of people are saying that Warner Brothers in general have too much of a focus on Batman. With this film and Matt Reeves' film, that'll be two Batman franchises running at the same time, but honestly, I never really thought that was a problem. So long as the projects are totally different from each other, and both are doing interesting things with the character, it really isn't an issue. Batman is the most versatile comic book character. You can kind of interpret him any number of ways. It's a good idea to differentiate this Batman project from the Matt Reeves series by having it focus on the Bat family of characters. A group of characters that are kind of criminally underrepresented in live action, really. The Bat family of characters always had massive potential, but Warner Brothers never bothered exploring any of it. I'm excited for this project, but I'm also kind of worried about it as well, but more from the perspective of a Batman and Bat family fan. You see, I have this feeling that when James Gunn says that this is a film focusing on the Bat family of characters, I think that just means Nightwing and Damian, and probably a few others like Batgirl, and if we're lucky, maybe Batwoman too. So I'll explain why I think this. Considering that this is the start of a new universe, Gunn will probably want a younger guy playing Batman, a guy who can do it for the next 10 years or so, so probably someone in their early to mid 30s. Taking a guess, I would say that Damian won't be the first Robin, that'll be Dick Grayson, who I would also guess is either just starting out as Nightwing or has been Nightwing for a little bit by the time we get to this film. Damian will probably be the second Robin, and this is where I start to get a little bit nervous with the choice of Damian Wayne as Robin for this film. You see, to get to Damian Wayne as Robin, you'd have to skip over these two guys who have also been Robin. And by skip over them, I mean just write them out of this continuity entirely as if they never existed. And that'll be an easy thing for the writers to do because, again, Batman will probably be a younger guy in this film. It'll make sense that Batman won't have partnered up with so many Robins by this point. So why does all of this worry me? Well, being a guy who is just overly precious about Batman and the Bat family in general, I don't want to see these two characters just omitted from this new continuity. Best case scenario, I can see Gunn maybe including Jason Todd as the previous Robin who was killed, but Tim Drake, I'm just not seeing how he's going to fit into any of this. And this has been a problem in the comics too for years. When Grant Morrison introduced Damian Wayne, DC editorial had no idea what to do with the character of Tim Drake as Robin, so they basically just shuffled him out of the books and at one point even tried to downplay his role as Robin, saying that he wasn't really Robin in continuity for any real length of time, even though he'd been Robin for about 17 years in the comics by the time Damian Wayne was introduced. I'll admit I'm biased on this one. Tim Drake has always been my favourite Robin, and it's always annoyed me that since Damian Wayne was introduced, DC just wants to forget this guy ever existed. And it's doubly annoying now that the films look to be doing the same thing with Tim on the big screen. I'd love to be proven wrong on this one, and that Tim Drake will be part of this film, but I really doubt that's going to be the case. Big excitement for this one. Booster is one of my all-time favourite characters, one of the best character arcs in all of comics really. A down-on-his-luck athlete that uses future tech to travel back in time to become a superhero in the present day, just to become famous and cash in. Been wanting to see WB do something with this character for years. There was a project in development a few years back with Greg Berlanti attached. Guess how that turned out. This is another project I could really see Gunn writing and directing. There's a lot of humour to the character of Booster Gold, but there's a lot of heart there too, which makes Booster a pretty good fit for Gunn. I think you'd need to cast a relative unknown for this role. I can't see any actor in Hollywood right now playing Booster. A lot of people online are throwing around Chris Pratt, and while he wouldn't be my pick, I can see why people would think he's a good fit for it. He has the kind of roguish charm that someone who is playing Booster would have to have. Another thing to keep in mind is that whoever Warner Brothers casts in the role of Booster, he'd need to have really good chemistry with whoever is ultimately cast as Blue Beetle. Not this Blue Beetle, this one, Ted Kord. These two are basically a package deal in the comics. I mean, they even sell deluxe action figure sets of these two guys together. There's already a Blue Beetle film coming out, and Ted Kord looks to be a part of that in some form, so at least it's not unrealistic to think that Gunn wouldn't want to put these two guys together at some point. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, based on the 2021 8-issue comic book series by Tom King. Kind of a strange story to pick to introduce Supergirl into the DCEU. I'm a little bit worried about this one, to be honest. Tom King, man, he is not my favourite writer. I liked his Vision series he did for Marvel and the issues he did for the Batman Flash crossover, but I really didn't like his Mr. Miracle run or really anything he's put out since. You see, I have this little problem with Tom King. I don't think he actually understands a lot of the characters he writes about. I mean, if you've got Green Lantern saying stuff like this, you know there's something wrong. I mean, take a look at some of these decisions. Having Flashpoint Batman become a villain for no reason. Having Orion become a despot for no reason, totally missing the whole point of his character. Having Wally West become a killer for no reason, then trying to frame other characters for his murders. Making Mr. Terrific say he's happy his wife and unborn kid died in a car accident. Having Adam Strange pull a gun on his wife in what looks like the start of a murder-suey situation. The story's got potential. The comic's pretty standalone in nature from what I've heard about it. It's basically True Grit but with Supergirl. I like the idea of a superhero story set entirely on an alien world. From what James Gunn said, it's meant to be a massive sci-fi epic. That all sounds great, but honestly, I'm just hoping that Tom King's involvement will be kept to an absolute minimum. Swamp Thing. Not too much to say about this one. Great source material to draw from. The Alan Moore run is an all-time classic. Handled this one right, Warner Brothers could have something really different and special on their hands. James Mangold attached to direct. Great director. Interested to see how he'll handle the horror aspects of the character. I'm liking that there's an attempt in this first slate to showcase characters that aren't superheroes. Characters like Swamp Thing and the Creature Commandos. Diversifying their lineup, more horror-themed shows and movies is a good way to keep people interested. There's still a lot of ambiguity around this slate. We don't know when any of these projects are actually scheduled to come out, or how involved James Gunn will be in some of them. I know this slate will evolve over time, some things will be shuffled around, and I'm 100% certain a few of these projects will never actually come out. I think this overall slate is just a kind of a best case scenario for Warner Brothers, a kind of, if all goes well, these are the projects we hope to be developing. What's kind of really interesting to me is that I wonder how this slate will change if The Flash turns out to be a really big success. It's definitely tracking that way. I wonder if that's something Warner Brothers or Gunn has planned for. I could actually see Warner Brothers shifting gears again if that's the case, and greenlighting new projects that aren't even on this slate that tie in with The Flash. So overall, I like that Gunn looks to have a hard focus on the individual vision of the writers and directors behind these projects, and that storytelling is king. I think that's a focus area that could really allow Gunn's new DC universe to overtake Marvel's, telling stories that the writers and directors actually want to tell instead of ones that are basically mandated by a studio. I can tell that Gunn really wants this whole thing to work, and honestly, I really hope it does too. Gunn is a director that legitimately cares about his work. He's not interested in making films that don't have a point or a theme to explore. And honestly, that's exactly what DC on film needs. I think that's what the entire superhero genre actually needs right now. But what do you think? What projects are you most excited for? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.